Welcome into today's edition of Just the Truth. Glad to have you join me in the PhD Weight Loss and Nutrition Studio. To lose weight for the last time, visit myphdweightloss.com. Breaking news as former President Trump vowed to continue fighting for the Constitution after he was found guilty on all 34 counts in the unprecedented New York versus Trump case, adding the real verdict will be read on Election Day. The Biden-Harris campaign issued a statement saying a second Trump term means chaos, ripping away Americans' freedoms, and fomenting political violence, and the American people will reject it this November. And as expected, Manhattan District Attorney Alvin Bragg took a victory lap after the jury announced their verdict, saying his office did our job, he said. We've also had the reactions from elected officials across South Carolina, North Carolina, and Georgia as they react to the guilty verdict handed down yesterday. And Americans are responding to this unprecedented development. And the one big question, can Donald Trump vote for himself in November? I have the answer coming up.
I told you we'd be back.
And ye shall know the truth, and the truth shall make you free.
It's Joey Hudson.
I wanted to name it the Joey Hudson bill, but, they don't allow you to put names on bills. But I wanted to call it the Joey Hudson bill because I know that one's been near and dear to you for a number of years.
That's how it's done. Let your voice be heard.
And the truth shall set you free.
Here's Joey Hudson.
This was a disgrace. This was a rigged trial by a conflicted judge who was corrupt. It's a rigged trial, a disgrace. They wouldn't give us a venue change. We were at 5% or 6% in this district, in this area. This was a rigged, disgraceful trial. But the real verdict is going to be November 5th by the people. And they know what happened here, and everybody knows what happened here. You have a Soros-backed DA and the whole thing. We didn't do a thing wrong. I'm a very innocent man, and it's okay. I'm fighting for our country. I'm fighting for our Constitution. Our whole country is being rigged right now. This was done by the Biden administration in order to wound or hurt an opponent, a political opponent. And I think it's just a disgrace. And we'll keep fighting. We'll fight till the end and we'll win because our country's gone to hell. We don't have the same country anymore. We have a divided mess. We're a nation in decline, serious decline. Millions and millions of people pouring into our country right now from prisons and from mental institutions, terrorists, and they're taking over our country. We have a country that's in big trouble. But this was a rigged decision right from day one with a conflicted judge who should have never been allowed to try this case, never. And we will fight for our Constitution. This is long from over. Thank you very much.
Why should voters vote for convicted felons?
Are you going to drop out?
You believe in the rule of law?
You trust the jury?
Are you worried about
Saying the real verdict will be read on Election Day, President Trump vowed to keep fighting after learning of the New York jury's decision to convict him on all 34 counts late yesterday afternoon. The jury was signaling the fact that they were probably going to have to come back on another day when, at the last minute, the judge announced that there was a verdict. And, of course, we waited and we waited and we waited until finally everyone gathered in the court and we learned of all 34 convictions. The Manhattan District Attorney's Office, of course, had charged Trump with falsifying business records in the first degree. Trump had pleaded not guilty in all the cases. The jury found him guilty on all counts. The president still pleading the case that this is simply the case of a, quote, Soros-backed DA and a political persecution, which you and I can agree to that. With Trump still saying he's done nothing wrong, he spoke briefly right after the verdict was read and then left the Manhattan court and returned to his home on Fifth Avenue in Manhattan. We all know this is politics. Nothing to do with the real crime. The jury's verdict came after deliberations on Wednesday and then yesterday after 6 weeks of trial in the Manhattan court, which largely has kept Donald Trump off the campaign trail, which is part of the Democrat strategy. The Biden campaign quickly released a statement saying, quote, "In New York today, we saw that no one is above the law." This was from Biden-Harris 2024 Communications Director Michael Tyler. He said Donald Trump has always mistakenly believed he would never face consequences for breaking the law for his own personal gain. But today's verdict does not change the fact that the American people face a simple reality. There is still only one way to keep Donald Trump out of the Oval Office, at the ballot box. Convicted felon or not, Trump will be the Republican nominee for president, Mr. Tyler said. The threat Trump poses to our democracy has never been greater. He is running an increasingly unhinged campaign of revenge and retribution, pledging to be a dictator on day one and calling for our Constitution to be terminated so he can regain and keep power, the statement went on to say. It said a second Trump term means chaos, ripping away Americans' freedoms, and fomenting political violence, and the American people will reject it this November. Now think about that. Think about that statement from the White House. When he talks about revenge and retribution, what does he think is happening to Donald Trump right now by one of his fellow Democrats? By a Democrat DA who ran on the idea that he was going to get Trump, that he was going to convict Trump. Is that not the revenge and retribution that the White House was talking about? The White House, that was the Biden-Harris campaign. Let me clarify that. That was the Biden-Harris campaign that made that statement. The White House also broke its silence and commented saying, "We respect the rule of law and have no additional comment." That came from the White House counsel's office, spokesperson Ian Sams, in a statement. After the verdict, Trump's campaign website was updated to say he is a political prisoner. I have more on that in just a moment. Reactions all around. South Carolina Governor Henry McMaster releasing a statement saying the American people understand that this trial was nothing more than a political attack on President Trump. We will respond decisively at the ballot box in November and return him to the White House. South Carolina Attorney General Alan Wilson, the decision to bring charges against President Trump was fueled by political motivations instead of the rule of law. I believe these charges would never have been pursued against anyone not named Trump. Senator Tim Scott released a video on X saying this.
I can't believe the hoax, this sham, this absolute injustice justice system. D.A. Bragg and the judge should be ashamed of themselves. This isn't just ridiculous. This actually erodes the confidence that Americans have in the justice system. Unbelievable. Unfreaking believable. But good news is coming. D.A. Bragg, hear me clearly. You cannot silence the American people. You cannot stop us from voting for change. Joe Biden's injustice, Joe Biden's two-tier injustice system, weaponizing the justice system of the United States of America against a political opponent, un-American. Joe Biden, you're fired. We the people stand with Donald Trump.
North Carolina Senator Tom Tillis saying, I'm shocked by the verdict considering that this case should have never been brought forward. From the beginning, it was clear that a radical, politically motivated state prosecutor was using the full weight of his office to go after President Trump. Senator Lindsey Graham, I expected this case to be reversed on appeal and for Donald Trump to be elected president in November. The outcome of this case should surprise no one. A political hack prosecutor manufactured charges in one of the most liberal legal venues in the country, and others responding very similar. South Carolina Republican Party Chairman Drew McKissick saying, what we're seeing now is what we traditionally see in the so-called banana republics. Two standards of justice where a party in power seeks to put its opponents in jail. Every American who believes that justice should be applied equally and fairly should be appalled by what we've seen over the last year. It just underscores how incredibly important this upcoming election truly is. And Heritage Action of America, their executive vice president, Ryan Walker, posted on X, this was a sham trial with predictable sham results. The only verdict that matters now will be decided on November the 5th. This time, every American will get to weigh in. And again, the list goes on. A lot of reaction, as there should be. Are you as appalled and shocked and mad, angry? What are some of the feelings that you had yesterday when you learned of the verdict? Now, you know, I sat there, and as they came back and they said we have a verdict, and knowing that it had been just 2 days, it's not a good sign when they come back with a verdict that quickly. So I was expecting a guilty verdict. I think I had that slight bit of hope that maybe, just maybe, there was one juror with a little bit of sense on that jury who would hold out and there'd be a hung jury. Didn't happen, though. Your comments are welcome on the Common Sense Retirement Planning text line, 71307, 71307. Email me, joey@joeyhudson.com. Are we going to win it in November? Does this verdict just reignite the Trump force at the ground level to where we turn out in record numbers? Love to get your comments. 864-477-JOEY, 864-477-5639. Send your comments to the Furman Ford text line. You can leave a quick voice message, and your emails are always welcome, joey@joeyhudson.com. Soon going to be 4 years ago that I started my journey with PhD weight loss and nutrition. I lost 30 pounds pretty quickly, I might add. And I've been able to maintain that for almost 4 years now. It'll be 4 years coming up in July. If this is the year that you have decided that you're going to get healthy, that you're going to lose that weight, that visceral fat that's so damaging around your waist, then now's the time to start. Let me encourage you to make that call today. 864-252-4925. Set up your initial consultation with PhD Weight Loss and Nutrition. Boy, am I glad that I met Dr. Ashley Lucas 4 years ago, and that she got me on the right path to getting healthy. You're going to be able to do things that you may have thought you'd never be able to do again. Play with the kids, the grandkids, be able to hike and walk, and maybe play a full 18-round hole of golf and be able to do it and not get so winded. Because when you take that excess weight off, you're just going to feel better. You're going to be able to focus. You're going to be able to sleep better. Your overall health is just going to be improved. 864-252-4925. Call, set up your initial consultation. Find them online at myphdweightloss.com. PhD Weight Loss and Nutrition, the official partner of the Clemson Tigers. A very gleeful Manhattan District Attorney Alvin Bragg took a victory lap after former President Trump was found guilty on 34 counts, saying his office did our job.
I did my job. Our job is to follow the facts and the law without fear or favor. And that's exactly what we did here. And what I feel is just gratitude to work alongside phenomenal public servants who do that each and every day in matters that you all write about and make the press, and in lots of matters that you don't. I did my job. We did our job. Many voices out there. The only voice that matters is the voice of the jury, and the jury has spoken.
Bragg continued in the press conference, adding that such white-collar crimes are at the, quote, core to what we do at the Manhattan District Attorney's Office. He praised his staff of prosecuting attorneys and the everyday men and women who served on the jury.
I want to thank this phenomenal prosecution team, embodying the finest traditions of this office: professionalism, integrity, dedication, and service. They are model public servants, and I am proud and humbled to serve side by side with them. The 12 everyday jurors vowed to make a decision based on the evidence and the law, and the evidence and the law alone. Their deliberations led them to a unanimous conclusion beyond a reasonable doubt that the defendant, Donald J. Trump, is guilty of 34 counts of falsifying business records in the first degree to conceal a scheme to corrupt the 2016 election. And while this defendant may be unlike any other in American history, we arrived at this trial and ultimately today at this verdict in the same manner as every other case that comes through the courtroom doors, by following the facts and the law and doing so without fear or favor.
When you listened to him yesterday, it was like we were in a twilight zone, wasn't it? He's talking about this crime that's, 6-7 years old, to conceal the 2016 election, yet he's committing a crime himself. The sitting president of the United States, talk about election interference. Is that not what we're witnessing right now? By using the Justice Department, using our court systems to try to disqualify the man who's going to soon be the Republican Party's nominee for president? Or are they that fearful that they can't win in November that they're going to have to try to take Donald Trump out literally in handcuffs? Bragg went on to say, while this defendant may be unlike any other in American history, we arrived at this trial and ultimately today at this verdict in the same manner as every other case that comes to the courtroom doors, by following the facts and the law and doing so without fear or favor. He used that term without fear or favor a number of times, as if Donald Trump was trying to intimidate him into doing something. Now, on one of the other networks, MSNBC's legal analyst warned his fellow liberals not to be too fast to celebrate, not to party too quickly of the news of the Manhattan jury finding Trump guilty. Former Principal Deputy Solicitor General of the U.S., Neil Katul, said, "Don't pop the champagne corks just yet."
That, I think this shows that the system works, but I suspect Trump's next move will be, as it always is, to denigrate the system, to attack the institutions, to attack the prosecution, to attack the jury system. And so don't pop our champagne corks yet, because Trump's going to run against this system. Mm-hmm. And our job as lawyers is to make sure that people understand how that system works and how justice was done today.
Yeah, Trump's supposed to just sit back and not say anything. They're setting this up as if Trump is attacking the court, the very court who has attacked him, the very judicial system who has attacked him. Katul, who is an MSNBC legal analyst, argued that the final fact that the trial had to be decided beyond a reasonable doubt, and talked about how all 12 jurors, it was just an astounding event, he said. He said one juror saying Trump didn't do it was enough for him not to be convicted. It's kind of like failing kindergarten, he said. You've got to kind of try to fail a jury trial if you are a defendant. You have got everything going for you, and yet Trump managed to do that. Basically trying to establish the argument that it's almost impossible to lose a case like this, but yet Trump is so guilty that he did. That's the point that this MSNBC legal analyst was making. Earlier, MSNBC host Chris Hayes praised the process itself as a monumental achievement. He said, whatever happened today, the process was an achievement. Meanwhile, over on CNN, Jake Tapper and CNN legal analyst Ellie Honig, they broke down sentencing guidelines and procedures in New York and the likelihood of whether or not Trump will eventually spend time in prison. Here's their analysis.
Address the question that I imagine is on a lot of people's minds, which is how likely is it that Judge Merchan imposes a sentence of prison? Now, this is a Class E felony. If we look at the universe of Class E convictions in New York State, and several good researchers out there have done sort of surveys over the last year or so, generally the estimates are that somewhere between 70 and 90% of Class E New York convictions result in non-prison sentences. So that would be some combination of probation, fines, perhaps community service. But the converse of that, 10 to 30-ish% do result in prison time. And this will be entirely up to Judge Merchan.
Is there a difference? Are the 10 to 30% that are sentenced to prison for Class E felonies individuals with worse lawyers? Are there individuals with previous criminal records, like Dana said? So, is there any sort of delineation? So
I'll give you what the relevant factors usually would be in a case like this. First of all, how big was the offense? How major was the offense? It's a big difference to steal $5 million versus $100,000. Was this person a first-time offender, or are they on their second, third, fourth conviction? Yeah, the quality of lawyering can absolutely play into it, but this is the most difficult thing that judges do. I mean, you talk to any judge, they will tell you the hardest part of their job is imposing a sentence. And one other thing I just want to make very clear. If Donald Trump does get a prison sentence imposed on him on July 11th, odds are very, very high he will not have to start serving that sentence right away, because in a case like this, he's very likely to get what we call bail pending appeal, meaning he will almost certainly not have to begin serving any sentence until after all of his appeals are done. That would certainly take us out past the election.
864-477-JOEY, 864-477-5639. Send your comments to the Furman Ford text line. You can leave a quick voice message, and your emails are always welcome, joey@joeyhudson.com. Whether you're replacing a broken appliance or maybe you're just upgrading, you're totally remodeling the kitchen, when it's time to get those new appliances, when you're ready for them, you don't want to have to wait weeks or even months to get started using them, right? Well, that's not the case when you shop with my friends at Discounted Appliance Warehouse. With over 11,000 square feet and 1,500 appliances at any given time, you can buy today and use today quite often. I'm talking about shopping with my friends at Discounted Appliance Warehouse in Pickens. It's worth the short drive over to Pickens. Jeff, Johnny, Kyle, the whole team over there, they'll take good care of you. They have an award-winning service department, expert installation, extended warranties, and at Discounted Appliance Warehouse, they treat you like family. You're more than just a credit card swipe to all the team over there. Discounted Appliance Warehouse, they're proud to offer Speed Queen, the only washer and dryers with manufacturer's warranties that cover parts and labor. You owe it to yourself if you're looking for a new appliance to head over to Pickens to Discounted Appliance Warehouse online at dawpickens.com, dawpickens.com. I'm still just reeling over the news yesterday. It's kind of surreal, isn't it? I mean, I guess we all thought that this was probably going to happen, but I had this glimmer of hope. I had this just tiny bit of hope that maybe, just maybe, that these 12 jurors, that there was one on there with a little bit of common sense. But then I guess if you look at the demographics of that area, it's probably impossible to have a jury or a single juror who would be somewhat friendly to Donald Trump, sympathetic to his situation, someone who would look at this and recognize it for what it is. You know, I heard one of the legal analysts, too, talking about, I think this was Judge Janine Pirro on Fox on the 5 yesterday. And she talked about being a former judge and how the judge and the jury has this connection. Because as members of the jury, they're basically dependent upon the judge during this trial. If they need food, they have to ask the judge. If there's something, anything they need during the process, they're dependent upon the judge to get that for them. If they're sick and they need medical help, whatever it is. And so Judge Janine talked about how there's this bond between the jury and the judge, and then if you have a judge like this guy, like this clown, who obviously was anti-Donald Trump, because former 4th District Congressman Trey Gowdy, a former prosecutor, he also talked yesterday about the idea that judges generally give defendants and their attorneys a wide berth, a lot of leeway, so that there's not any possibility of an appeal and a successful appeal. But in this case, Judge Mershon, or whatever his name is, Merchant or Mershon, whatever, he was very strict on the defense. He denied one of Trump's expert witnesses. That's almost unheard of. That very rarely ever happens, because judges don't want to they want to err on the side of giving the defense a broad spectrum of a large area in which to work with their defense. And this judge did not do that at all. Judge Janine talked about how in that the final charge to the jury, that it was almost as if he had already connected with these jurors, and the fact that his charge to them favored a conviction of Donald Trump, that they probably felt like they didn't have an option of anything but to find him guilty. I don't know. I guess the big question now is, where does this leave us going into the November elections? because this is not going to go away. Now, I don't think there's any chance that Donald Trump's going to be in jail between now and November. Sentencing set for July the 11th, which will be after this first debate and just a few days prior to the Republican National Convention. Even with the sentencing on July the 11th, with the appeals process, that could take months, if probably not years. So this case and the final outcome of this case is not going to be known before the November 5th election. So the question has been asked, can Donald Trump, since he is presently a convicted felon and he will have been sentenced before the November 5th election, can he even vote? Can he vote for himself? According to the Associated Press, yes, he can. Donald Trump, according to the AP, even though he's been convicted of a felony, he resides in Florida, a state notorious for restricting the voting rights of people, according to the AP, with felony convictions, but he can still vote as long as he stays out of prison in New York State. That's because, according to the AP, Florida defers to other states' disenfranchisement rules for residents convicted of out-of-state felonies. In Trump's case, New York law only removes the right to vote for people convicted of felonies when they're incarcerated. Once they're out of prison, their rights are automatically restored, even if they're on parole. This is per a 2021 law passed by the state's Democrat legislature. So, according to Blair Bowie of the Campaign Legal Center, in a post that was written, she said, if a Floridian's voting rights are restored in the state of conviction, they are restored under Florida law. So, assuming that Donald Trump is not in jail, and I don't think he will be, he'll be able to vote come November. A lifelong New Yorker, Trump, of course, established residency in Florida in 2019 while he was still president. Even if he's elected president again, Trump will not be able to pardon himself because this is a state charge in New York. The only person who could potentially pardon Trump is the governor of New York. Don't think that's going to happen, do you? The president's pardon power only applies to federal crimes. The conviction, and even more important, would not bar Trump from continuing his pursuit of the White House. So the fact that he's been convicted and the fact that he will be sentenced, and again, what he will appeal, of course, is both the conviction and the sentence. But the fact that he has been convicted still doesn't mean he can't run. The Republican National Convention, which will open 4 days after his sentencing, adopted rules last year that didn't include any specific provisions if its presumptive nominee is convicted of a crime. Now, it's pointed out that delegates could move to change their rules before formalizing Trump's nomination. But look, there's no evidence that a significant faction of the party would even wants to replace Donald Trump. In fact, this will probably rally the troops. This will probably make the Milwaukee convention a pretty exciting place to be, because Trump commands loyalty across the GOP base, and the Republican National Committee is run by his loyalists, including his daughter-in-law, Laura Trump, who's co-chair. By the way, yours truly and Mike Gallagher will be in Milwaukee, bringing the most up-to-date details to you. So plan to keep it here July 15th through the 18th this summer, as I'll keep you informed of what's going on in Milwaukee at the Republican National Convention. I'll be having various guests and interviews of delegates from all around the country, but I'll pay particular attention from those delegates from the Carolinas and Georgia. As you can imagine, Americans across the country were reacting. Some were stunned yesterday. Some just never thought that, even though, yes, the last 6 weeks we've been watching this jury, this circus in New York, it just had never really dawned on anyone that this potentially would take place, that the former president of the United States would be convicted. And we know that the potential political and societal implications of this history-making verdict. Fox News interviewed a number of people out on the street yesterday, and they offered a range of reactions from outrage to indifference to literally some of them were happy that Donald Trump had been convicted. Listen to some of the people on the street who Fox News talked with yesterday. I think one of the interesting things, though, was most of these people felt like that the conviction yesterday would not have any bearing as to the final results of the November election.
I find it absolutely insane.
Kind of blows my mind. Can you say banana republic?
I think it's a complete failure of our justice system, and it's a complete Joe Biden, Kamala Harris hit job.
I'm shocked that he keeps going. So I will say he's, you know what, God bless him for keep on trucking.
It scares me that we would literally go after whether it's a Democrat, a Republican, an independent, any person running for office, that we would go after them in order to silence them. That's a scary place to be, and I don't want to live in America like that.
Do you feel like it's probably not going to influence a lot of people who have already decided to vote for Trump and a lot of people who've already decided to vote for Biden? I'm not sure how much sway it's going to have because I feel like he's been in and out of legal stuff his whole presidency.
And that's for sure. He has been. He's been under attack from day one. So I guess none of us should be that surprised. Upon the announcement of the verdict, though, the Trump campaign immediately swung into action. They obviously had anticipated what their reaction would be, whether it was a guilty verdict, a not guilty verdict, or a hung jury, because within literally minutes of Trump making his statement and then leaving the courtroom, I received a text message. Many of you probably did too. Breaking from Trump. I was just convicted in a rigged trial, it read. I'm a political prisoner. I was just convicted in a rigged political witch hunt trial. I did nothing wrong, it said. They've raided my home, arrested me, took my mugshot, and now they've just convicted me. Crooked Joe Biden needs to get the message right here, right now, that his chances of a second term end today. But for that to happen, our immediate pushback must be so massive it will go down in history. We must make Joe Biden regret ever coming after us, it wrote. Before the day is over, I'm calling on 10 million pro-Trump patriots to chip in and say, I stand with President Trump. My end of the month fundraising deadline is just days away. So at this dark hour, I'm humbly asking for you to please stand with me now. I know with you by my side, we will win back the White House and make America great again. And he got such response from this that literally his website crashed. People reported trying to go online to make a donation, could not make a donation because of the response. The website crashed. That's the response that Joe Biden never anticipated. 864-477-JOEY, 864-477-5639. Send your comments to the Furman Ford text line. You can leave a quick voice message, and your emails are always welcome, joey@joeyhudson.com. Speaking of the Furman Ford text line, it's never been more important to support locally run businesses owned by people who actually live here in the upstate. Let me take a minute to talk with you about our friends at Furman Ford. If you're looking for a new vehicle, maybe a great pre-owned vehicle, one you could trust, or maybe you're looking to order that special vehicle. Either way, if you want a new one, a brand new one, or a pre-owned that you can trust, the folks at Furman Ford, they're there to help you. Their name is on the sign because their name is on the line, because every single transaction is important to them. Jim Furman, Matthew Furman. They do business the right way. When you stop by, when you give them a call, or maybe when you just send them a quick email, you're always going to have access to a member of the Furman Ford family. And by the way, they also offer great service, and you're not going to have to wait weeks and weeks to get it done. And you do not have had to purchase your vehicle at Furman Ford. Doesn't even have to be a Ford. They service all makes and models. Visit my friends at Furman Ford online at furmanford.com, furmanford.com. On the text line, Christy writes, Joey, it sounds like this entertainer, in quotation marks, John Legend, real name John Roger Stevens, has borrowed the KJP binder to talk politics in his interview. Bless him. The Kool-Aid in his cup is strong. She's talking about the interview that I talked about in yesterday's show, I think it was, of John Legend, actually saying that he doesn't understand why blacks, and particularly young black males, are not supporting Joe Biden because everything's so good. Unemployment's down. The economy's good. He doesn't understand it because John Legend's a multimillionaire. He probably is not hurt like most people are. Carol writes, good morning, Joey. How do I hear Word on the Street? Oh, glad you asked that question, Carol. Word on the Street is my new show that is aired on News Talk 98.9 WORD, the voice of the Carolinas, on Saturdays at 12 noon. So just go to 98.9 and you can listen to that in the Carolinas and on the Odyssey app as well. Ginger writes, everyone is focused on the trial right now, but I'm concerned about Republicans' overconfidence in possible debates. I fear the Biden team has something up their sleeve. Now, Ginger, why would you think that they would have something up their sleeve? Why would you think Democrats are being sneaky like that? She goes on to write, why else would they allow Biden to debate? Valid question, Ginger. He somehow made it through the last State of the Union address better than expected, and there was a lot of speculation beforehand that he wouldn't stay upright or complete a sentence. Your thoughts? Ginger, I think that they can pump him full of drugs, give him a dose of Adderall or something, and probably get him to the point. And these debates will be a lot different. I mean, you know, they made it very clear which networks they were going to deal with. Notice Fox News is not doing a debate. So Biden knows that the moderators will be friendly to him. Trump doesn't care. Trump will just jump right in there and make the most of it. It's a hit and miss. And I think Joe Biden realizes with the poll numbers that he's seeing now, he has to roll the dice and hope that it'll be a good day for him. Chris writes on the text line, Joey, now that they've convicted Trump on all counts, I think all the jurors should be investigated and see their bank account history before, during, and after the trial. Chris, surely you're not suggesting that there's something going on here. No, not in our country. Texter Faye says, Joey, you watch. Hunter will walk a free man. Those Trump haters don't realize this, that they've just cut their throats, but they will find out. And the picture will not be pretty. Judge Merchan should be disbarred for the way he misled the jury. I will surely crawl through glass to vote for Trump. We are living during end times. Tony writes, I used to care who Trump's VP is, but not anymore. Now more than ever, Trump is the guy I'll be casting my vote for. What a bunch of crock. Everyone knew he wouldn't get a fair trial in New York. That they wanted all his trial. That's why they wanted his trial in New York. Tony, see there, I told you. Tony, just the other day, Tony was texting me saying he wasn't going to vote if Nikki Haley was the vice president. I responded to Tony's text and kind of scolded him a bit. Tony, you know I love you, man. You got to vote, though. I don't care who the vice president. I don't care if it is a vice president you don't necessarily approve of. We have to vote because now more than ever, we got to get Donald Trump back in the White House. Caroline on the text line says, question, there's so many political fundraising efforts for individual candidates as well as for general Republican groups. Can you tell me the difference between such and or suggest which fundraisers are the most reputable? Well, you're right, Caroline. We're being bombarded right now. Every time you open your email, you've got another request for funds from some GOP, Republican, conservative group or a campaign. So my advice to Caroline was this: choose candidates that you support and support them directly. Write a check for them. Go online, make a contribution. Look, a lot of people did that to Donald Trump yesterday, and we got to stand behind him. We got to support him. But also, if there are other groups, I mean, the Republican Party in general, each state party raises money, local parties raise money. Try to find or identify groups and candidates that you trust, and be careful with who you give your money to. Jeff writes, it amazes me that they tried Donald Trump on this BS case that the district attorney ran on getting him, but did not press charges on the Hillary Clinton campaign for the Russian collusion. How is that fair? Our country is lost and going to hell if we don't come together as Republicans to defend our rights and stop fighting each other. The Democrats will back each other even if they don't agree and they always stick together. And you're right, Jeff. We do. We gotta stand up. We gotta lock arms and go into this battle together. Jennifer writes, "Hey Joey, the American public can't explain what this trial was about, what the verdict means, even what the crime was. You can't support what happened in America today. You have to vote these people out in November." And that's right. As President Trump said yesterday, the real decision comes on November the 5th. And that's what Joe Biden is scared of. That's what the Democrats are so frightened of, because they know that they have kicked an old dog, and we're about to rear up on them. Ace writes, "I told you." Now, Ace, you just had to tell me that, didn't you? I told you so. These people were paid off. The judge was either paid off or threatened. The Clinton mafia is behind all of this. People thought I was being ridiculous for saying this. Now what do? Are we just going to just stand by and watch this man and his family's life be destroyed? How can the United States Justice Department just let this happen? If the Democrats get away with this, then the Constitution is over. We're living in a communistic nightmare. I know what the Dems want. They want a war. This is way beyond election interference. Well, here's what we do, Ace. Again, I keep repeating myself, but we work hard. We raise money. We beat them fair and square November the 5th. And the win has to be so big that there's no way they can cheat. The bigger, the better. And that's what we're going to do. Our text of encouragement today from Joel says, "A gentle word, a kind look, a good-natured smile can work wonders and accomplish miracles." God bless. Thank you, Joel. We always need a bit of encouragement each day, because, boy, are we living in tough times right now. Look, I understand it can be very discouraging, and thank you for all the text messages. You're welcome to text me. You can also email me. I got some emails too. Just not going to have time to share them all today. Joey@joeyhudson.com. I welcome your emails. Be sure and join my mailing list. Go to joeyhudson.com. Just click on Connect with Joey. I understand it's discouraging. So what do? Exactly what Trump did. Trump jumped back in yesterday. He went to a fundraiser last night. He went back to Trump Tower, freshened up, and he was out back on the campaign trail fundraising. And I'll bet you that we're going to see him. There are going to be more Trump rallies in the coming weeks than ever before. He's going to have them. He's going to be scheduling them like crazy. The Trump campaign reported last night that Trump left his New York City home to attend a fundraiser last night. A spokesperson said, "We're already back to the mission. President Trump won't let this sham stop the movement of this campaign to save the nation." And that's the attitude we have to have for Donald Trump. We have to hang in there with him. We have to stick in there with him for sure. That's it for today's edition of Just the Truth. Thanks for joining me in the PhD Weight Loss and Nutrition Studio. To lose weight for the last time, visit myphdweightloss.com. If you haven't joined our mailing list yet, visit my website, joeyhudson.com. Just click on the Connect with Joey button so that you can receive our emails and the most up-to-date news. Also, find me on YouTube. Be sure and like, subscribe, follow me on my YouTube channel. Just search for Joey Hudson. Appreciate you spending a few minutes of your day with me. Be sure and forward this edition of Just the Truth to some friends. Just click on the share button. Send it to a few of your contacts, because if we're going to build our community and we're going to win in the June primaries, and if we're going to win in November especially, we got to build an army of conservatives. The way we beat Joe Biden is through educating people, and no better way than encouraging them to listen to Just the Truth. Hey, keep those comments coming via the Furman Ford text line, 864-477-JOEY, 864-477-5639. Your emails always welcome as well. Joey@joeyhudson.com. We're back again tomorrow. Hope you will be too. Remember, God's got this. He's still in control.